My name is Bonnie B, and you are watching The Power of Perseverance. I have Ryan Alspach with me from Warrior Fuel Supplements. He started his Warrior Fuel brand back in 2013, and since then I have watched it stay in the fitness industry, in the dietary supplements, and grow. That's a big deal. So congratulations, first of all, on that. And he's taking his business to another level with what he's going to be doing with coaching. We're going to dive into that. So welcome, and thank you for being on here.
Yeah, I'm grateful that you asked me to be on here, and it's always good to connect with people that see things, I guess, the same way you do, or at least on the same page as you do. There's very few that are kind of, I feel like they're getting directed into the right path, right? Like, there's still a lot of people that are stuck in the old ways, don't want to learn and grow and expand.
I would agree with that. I think that the conditioning that we have in the society is that this thing called personal development is woo-woo, and you do it if you're into that. Where really our emotional intelligence is 95% of the way we communicate is nonverbal. So if we're not understanding our emotions and how we're interacting with other people, let alone how and why we do things, which we're going to dive in because you posted on your YouTube video about helping people take next steps on how to move forward in their goals. How do we really get where we want to go in life? Like, how do you get there if you don't know where you are right now? And so the awareness that you're bringing not only to you, who you are as a brand, I think is incredible. You talked about being hard to kill, and you're starting your podcast.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
the one thing that caught me on social media when I was stalking you, so to speak, was, in times of need or desperation, are you prepared physically, mentally, emotionally for anything that could happen to protect your family? So starting with that, how did you come up with the name and why are you going that way with it?
So the name was just something I'm always looking for different ways to connect and I guess a lot of it comes from my background, right? So like I came from really meager circumstances. I was chubby when I was a kid. I got made fun of. Like, I came from a really drug induced toxic environment as a kid, I guess you can say. And so I knew there was so much more out there for myself, but I never knew where to find it. I never knew how to get there. I never knew. I guess we live in a way different time with information, but when I was a kid, I was always searching for something better, greater. And what I've learned is I've worked with pro athletes, pro fighters for a very long time now, and what I've learned is times haven't changed. People are still in that mindset of where do I go to take the first steps? How do I get knowledge? How do I better my life? And from I guess informational like people like you and I, where we're always gobbling up everything that we can to better ourselves. The majority of society is not like that. The majority of society, it's generational. In it, their parents didn't do anything to change it, and they're not doing anything to change it, and they're teaching their kids not to do anything to change it. And that's the majority of people. I really believe it's the 1, 2, 3% that are like you and I in the circle that really want to change in that in a better way and never stop improving. But and I guess it's kind of the same in a different paradigm, but it's why the lottery keeps growing into the billions, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
people still like that's the majority, right? It's the majority thinks that they don't have to do anything, things are going to change. And the hard to kill was like I was at the pool and I've been going to the pool with my kids for a very long time, and every one time I went to the pool, I'd get these kids that came up to me and be like, "You're so jacked," and I'd look around and I'd be like, the truth of it is, yes, I've worked out my whole life, but there's not even a fit person here. Like there's not even like someone that's even kind of fit, right? And so all I saw was just, and I say this in a very, I don't want to be disrespectful, but just in a massively obese society. The entire pool, it was just like, and then they're just feeding their faces with pizza, and I'm just like, what is going on? And how can I help 1, 2, 3, 10 of these people in any way? That's kind of where it started. I've always personal trained. I've always done all that, but it's like, how can I reach these people? How can I show them there's a way better way of life? And the message of hard to kill is I think I think there's that quote, and I'm gonna totally ruin it, but you don't really change until the pain is so bad you're like forced to. It's like there's a quote that actually talks about it, but what for me it was like I don't think any of these guys are gonna change until they hit below rock bottom, until they're either their life is on the line or something. And for me, it's like if I had my little girls out and I couldn't protect them because I was so out of shape, that would be enough pain for me to change. And so that's where, are you easy to kill or are you hard to kill? Like, can someone just come and take your belongings, take your children, do whatever, or do you have the strength and the health to protect them? Something simple as that.
So, your first introduction to fitness, I would imagine there was one defining moment where you looked around and you thought maybe to yourself, I want to be in the best shape of my life. And was it 18, 19? Was it in high school? Like, what was that first moment for you?
Okay, so we live in a trailer park, and I mean like a ghetto trailer park. My my parents smoked, and so they would get, this is kind of going to date me, but they would get the little Marlboro like points on like a cigarette package, and they
Yeah.
would send them in for like gifts, like bags. And so like I had like a literally like a Marlboro gym bag, and then I had like, and it was these little things. And I remember I'd run around my trailer park because I just wanted to be, I wanted my body to be better than it was. I knew I was chubby, I knew I was, and I wanted to be better. So I do push-ups, and I did all that stuff at our trailer park. Um, and now I was probably 10, I guess.
10 years
When
old was your
yeah,
first
when I
awareness
just
about,
knew I wanted to be a better human being. Like I
yeah.
wanted to be stronger, faster, all that stuff. So probably 10 years old.
And was your first step you took at 10 years old?
Running. I would run, I'd do push-ups, I'd do pull-ups.
And it sounds like nutrition was not well sustained in your
No.
house. So when did you go, oh, I probably should start eating this way and not that way?
So when I was about 13, I went to a modeling thing with a friend of mine. I was with his like family to go pick him up, and the modeling agent there was like, "We want you to get involved," and I was just like, "What?" Like, and I got deep into the modeling stuff, and this it's completely against everything that you see of me now. But I want to say against, but just not who I am, and and I got deep into acting and modeling, and they put us through all these courses, and it was still unhealthy, the courses that they did, but it was like, don't ever eat french fries, don't drink soda, like it was all those things. And it like brainwashed me into a point where I was like, I'd see people eat like junk, or not junk, but like french fries or something. I'd be like, oh, you're disgusting, you know what I mean, like at like 13 years old. And
You had a
but
lot
I
of judgment there,
remember,
Ryan.
what's that?
That was a lot of judgment. Huh?
No, that it was crazy, but it was what they taught me. I didn't know anything,
Right.
right?
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, and but the way that I felt, and I remember leaning up. That's when I went from like kind of chubby because I was working out to like shredded, and I had a six pack at like 14 years old. What it is because I ate nothing but protein. Anything I wouldn't even eat it. I wouldn't even eat that day if it wasn't protein. And was it healthy? Absolutely not. But it showed me what the body could do. You know what I mean? Okay, you can lose a bunch of weight. You can get fat. You can get muscle. Like, I learned all these things, and that's what got me obsessed with supplements, with eating, with nutrition, with everything. I was like massively obsessed with it. I couldn't get enough knowledge.
So when you started to go down that road of exploring supplements, did you start Warrior Fuel because you didn't find what you needed? Why
Yeah,
did you start
actually.
Warrior Fuel?
So I was working on with athletes at the time, some fighters, and they were like, "Hey, we want this, but every pre-workout or energy drink, everything that we take, it makes us super sick." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna create a product. I'm just gonna find ingredients, maybe different supplements, and I'm gonna create a product that we want, that they give you the results that you want." And that's when I just dove into like probably 6 to 8 hours of research a day, and I started reading all these studies on, it was how to naturally take someone off like ADD medications and get them into a natural form. And so I gosh, this was so long ago, probably like 17, 16, 17 years ago. I read this study on, I'm pretty sure it was from McMaster's University in Canada, and it talked about neurotropics, and that was a very foreign word back then. No one knew about it, and I was
No.
like, and so I started using like, um, gosh, I was using choline bitartrate. I was using like all these different neurotropics because you couldn't get your hand on a lot of them, right? And so I started gathering all these neurotropics, all these choline based neurotropics to stimulate the brain, and I was putting them in a natural caffeine based product. And that was so I was giving to the fighters, and they were like, "This is amazing," and there was no crash, and that's where it all started. We were the first. I created Warrior Fuel as a fighter's drink that was mostly neurotropics with a little bit of aminos and a little bit of natural caffeine. And it was just basically to stimulate the brain, get the nervous system going without getting these guys' heart rate through the roof.
I think I love that you brought that up because there's so much misconception that caffeine is energy and it's not. That's kind of stimulant. People put caffeine in workouts, and I remember when your stuff came out. If I remember accurately, you have a non-stim pre-workout powder for women.
We have all kinds of stuff. We have
But
way
I
more
mean, one of
stuff.
the first ones that had come out.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
expanded, but
correct.
I
So
remember taking your product because of that reason. Because I can't do.
yeah, so we had a natural sweetened and a non-stim product for it was called hers, and this was 12 years ago that we came out with those. They tasted like absolute crap because it was a back then the sweeteners, the natural sweeteners were
They're
horrible.
not
But
layers, not so
yeah,
good.
and but it was we were the before people even I guess bastardized sweeteners. We used all kinds of stuff, and I was always trying to stay on the healthier side of things. But we still do tons of custom formulas. I get guys all the time that are like, "Hey, can you do this without this?" Or, and I do it. I have a lab that I have in my playground where I just customize formulas all the time. I'm after the podcast, I'm getting ready to do some, and so it's what I've loved. I've been obsessed with customizing formulas, and fixing formulas. There's a lot of the major brands out there that I fix formulas for, and so
So
it's
do you
just something.
consult on that just for anyone listening? If you're looking to have your
Yeah,
panel looked at, you do that. Okay.
yeah,
Just so
and
you
that's
guys
the
can
thing.
note that.
Yeah, that's like one of the things that my next step is I feel like the supplement world is just in a bad spot, in a really bad spot, and it's all about influencer. Then it's not about quality or anything like that. It's like I posted yesterday. It's like if you look at the major brands out there, most of them are still using all these artificial colors. And we know that they're so bad for us, but you guys are still buying them by the millions. It's like why? But I want to create I'm working on actually developing my consulting agency, not for this big money making thing, but to be like, look, let me steer you in the right direction. Let me get you something that your customers will take over and over and over again, instead of getting upset stomachs and issues. So
What would you say would be the number one ingredient in your book that if you had to pick one, it's like the go-to for
essential amino acids, to be
essential?
honest, like
Okay, why?
it goes between that and sodium, like an all natural salt. Minerals are, in my opinion, like not to get biblical, but hell, they talk about them in the Bible, like salt. You know what I mean?
Get
Like
biblical. That's what this is
it,
about.
it's
You be you.
it's salt is the thing, right? And so when I get athletes that are like, "Hey, I want the best," and I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna start throwing down some salt," and they're like, "Wait, what? I didn't hire you to tell me to drink salt." And I'm like, "That's where we're gonna start because I already know through everything you sent me, you're not taking any sodium." And so there's a misconception that there's all these secret pills and capsules and this and that, when the basics that we're just walking by. And between sodium and EAAs, in my opinion, are the two fundamental healers of the body.
I would agree with that. And this is why I agree with that from this perspective is if our pineal gland in our brain is connected and our whole brain's connected to our heart and it's the central nervous system and you need electrolytes to talk and help with our cell signaling, why wouldn't we be optimizing that mineral that does it?
100%. But what does the world say? Like you said, caffeine, right? And
They don't
caffeine's
want
like,
you to take sodium. But
yeah,
you and I have tracked our food before,
yep.
right? If you write down everything you eat and you are eating whole foods, you don't get enough sodium in your
Oh
body. You
no.
have to supplement. It's the crap that they put in our processed food and they say limit your amounts.
Oh,
That's what
sorry.
blows my mind. You're good. We just keep
Um,
going.
no, I put it on Don't Disturb, but I keep getting messages. I don't know why.
It's good.
But no, what you just said is like right on the point, right? Like it's 100% the truth, but it's not yelled. It needs to be spoken from the rooftops. Like you guys are missing the core thing, the core ingredient that your body absolutely has. Like a woman can't even produce breast milk without enough sodium.
No,
It's
it's
like
not.
the thing. So
So do you have that belief where we as a society are conditioned and there's like two sides of it? There's like the enlightened people and the non-enlightened people, right? Like
100%.
if we can, I guess some people call it the matrix,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
ones that are awakening. So it sounds like you really want to help people awaken, not just on this woo woo, but it's like, do you want to have a better quality of life? Let me help you do that.
So here's the truth: is we live in an information based time that is over complicated with false people. And what I mean by that is people have seen, the marketing guys have seen, this is an informational based time. I'm going to capitalize on it, take as much money as I can, right? And so you get all
Yeah.
these guys that are like acting like they're gurus, but have zero experience. And then they try to overcomplicate everything because all they're doing is regurgitating something they heard from another influencer. The truth of it is, we all know what we need to do. We just don't do it. And if you really cared about your health, you could find people like me and you that have been talking about it forever, and say, look, it's this simple. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. It's very simple. You just need to do it and do the simplest things over and over and over again, and then add to those step by step, and you'll be in a way better spot. It doesn't need to be. You don't need to start out. Let me say this: you don't need to start out tracking every macro, getting your this like 200-point blood panel done, and biohacking, right? Like that's not where it needs to start. It needs to start at these little baby steps, and then you just add to it and add to it. Then a year from now, you're like, I'm a different human being. I look different. My skin's different. My mood, my energy, everything. That I just think we are in a world of a time of complication right now.
Why do you think that is?
Money, I really do. It's just money. You get like you. I can't get on there, and anybody that gets a little bit of attention, like I'm not gonna say names, but like the health influencers out there, and they've all changed into making more money. And I'm sure with your brand, it's like they're like, hey, I want more money. If I'm going to advertise on my podcast, I'm going to advertise on my channel. I want more money. I want more money. I want more money. And they started out with the intention of I want to do good, and that intention went to money. And money is a drug. Power, it's. I think a lot of these guys, they just get a taste of fame and money, and they're like, I want more. And then they're promoting products that suck, and they've just changed. For me, I'm not a monetary, like I'm not a materialistic guy in any way, shape, or form, probably because where I came from, but I am about, my fulfillment comes from seeing someone change, from being a part of that change. And so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I make my money, right? I earn my money, right? But when I can take,
Entitlement, like a lot of people feel entitled because
oh
maybe they got
gosh,
it
like don't even
easy.
take me down that path. Everybody does. And the truth of it is, though, is I feel like doing what you absolutely love and absolutely like your heart is into, you're not gonna just want more money out of it. You're gonna be willing to do whatever it takes to help a person, to help a community, to help people. And then I keep those separate, like 100% separate. So what I want, the message that I want to portray and where I make my money, I make sure they're different, if that makes sense. So when I have a
100%.
when if I have a money conversation with someone, I say, look, it's very clear and to the point, and it's like this is what we're going to do, and this is the objective. But when someone comes at me, or when I see a group of people, and I'm like, I can help them. It doesn't have. I don't even think about money. When I create a product, the last thing I think about is money. I don't look at a product and think, yeah, how much money can I make off this, or what's my budget? I think, okay, what are the best ingredients on the face of the freaking planet? Can I put into this product to get the results we want? And now in my world it's way different. In your world, the salts and everything that the stuff that you deal with are way more expensive, you know. But getting EAA powder, getting creatine powder, getting all the powders that I get, beta alanine, all that stuff, they're not expensive. But for some reason, a pre workout's $60, right? Why? Because we're paying influence, we're paying all these things. So there's I know, and I can't name names, but I know some of the largest companies out there that are creating their pre workout for $6 and they're charging 60. But it's because of it's money, 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 and I don't look at that. I look at, okay, how can I benefit, right? How can I benefit? And so I that's why I feel like my products that I've created, not just Warfield, are way better in the fact that they're not contaminated with the false, like, or not false, but with the, like, a budget, right? Or something to that keeps from reaching the ultimate level.
So, what I have found being in the supplement side of things, yes, I do talk to lots of manufacturers and I ask the questions. I said, do your brands come to you and expect you guys to be the experts, or do they come to you knowing what they want to do? And gosh, I would say 70% of the brands who go to a manufacturer hire a third party formulator because they really don't know what they're doing. They're just good marketers. A lot of those products are, like you said, very cheap and put together. And because people don't know and they don't do their research. But what's been so incredible about being in the ingredient side with the company that I'm with is we have developed something that is a macronutrient. It's something your body's already making. It's not a precursor. It's authentic. And our pricing actually, not to get in too much, but it's
Yeah.
relatively low because of, for the quality. And when I came to the company, I said to them, I'm here because I believe in what I do. And if I don't believe in it, I'm not passionate. Like, it's just a job to me and I will not show up how you need me to. I
Totally.
think that is why then you go to these influencers. We've had people say, we want to rep your product. And my first question to them before I even pass them off to our CEO is I say, why do you take our ingredient? What does it do for you? And if they can't tell me why, you're not coming on board, because if you don't even understand what you're taking, how are you going to be a good brand advocate for us?
How many of them have never even taken it, but then want to be an ambassador for you, or an athlete
Because
for you?
I said, we're not paying.
Like 9 out of 10.
Yes, 9 out of
Yeah,
10. And I'm sure you got that all the time. Can we
all the
rep
time.
Warrior Fuel? So it's like, and then yes, I have seen that too, where we've had people take products and because the money was good for them, which I mean, I totally get, you have to make
Yeah, of
money,
course. Yeah,
but we have set a standard with our brand that if you're not currently taking the product, we're not going to come and approach you. We have set a standard that you are already taking it, you like it, and the clients and the athletes and the people that are on board with us have come and said, I really love this product. And we're like, great, nothing's been done. And we bring you on board because we know it's authentic and genuine, because as you said, it is saturated with people who are taking advantage of those who don't know. So I love
and
that you
yeah.
stand for that in your brand.
The other thing is what I've learned working with manufacturers. You know, we started we built our own clean rooms. We built our own FDA facility to start because when I belonged to, like, the R&D side, and I'd create formulas and I'd go in and see the stuff that was happening in manufacturing facilities, it blew my mind. Like, I saw them not I saw the testing results where they didn't put the active ingredients in there. You know, I saw, but and none of us would ever know. Like, I'm like, I wonder how
No,
many
you
times in
would have
my life,
never know.
never know ever. And they'll give you false data reports. Like, they will. They'll just be like, here, we got it. We got it tested. Here's your third party test, and it's not even real. You know what I mean? And
Isn't that crazy?
that's the problem with the world we live in today. Is I've worked with one of the largest, or I was the most popular formulators on earth, and he would laugh about all the time. All you need is a few stimulants, and that's all you need. Because as long as they can feel the effects of stimulants, they feel like the product's working. You know, and uh, and he's like, I don't even care what's in it after that. And in my mind, I'm like, what? You know, like, bro, like, that's not how it should be. You know, and well, it wasn't a few years later that he got sued because he created this product for this massive brand. They sent it to Australia, and the two of the active ingredients weren't even in there, because when you go to Australia, they just randomly pull bottles and test them,
They test
and
it.
yeah, all the time, and they test it, and so, you know, I was talking to the owners of that product, and they were like, we went back, and because they kept samples of their lot numbers, they went back, and none of the active ingredients were ever in the product, ever. and that's the scary part of the supplement world is it needs to be regulated. You know, it if it could be, I'd be the happiest man on earth. Like, just have a little stamp that says like, "Yeah, this is tested and approved, and everything they say is in there at the dosing they say." And
Yeah, because right now it's really at the subject of the brand getting their test done. There's no
yep.
regulation.
And not only that, it's also you have a little asterisk by everything that says that it says that it's not actually, you can't actually make these claims, and so it could help you lose weight, it could do this, but there's no factual evidence that it could, so you're just buying whatever, and so the supplement industry, being in it most of my adult life, it's been an eye opener, to say the least, because you think, and again, I think it has to do with growing up in my era where it was like magazines. It's like you're looking at all these dudes on magazines that are on stuff they shouldn't be, enough to kill a horse, and you're thinking, oh, he takes that creatine, I'm going to look like that, as a young kid, and then you realize, okay, that's not how I'm going to look if I take this creatine years later, and you're like, oh, and that's the problem is I do like the way that our fitness world is going, because it used to be only bodybuilding, and now it's like
Yeah.
switching into like a more functional. I feel like that's like people are grasping onto the functionality of fitness, which is awesome. I love that.
I love that I'm seeing so many more youth in the gym. I went to EOS, which is a gym, took
Oh
over
yeah,
all the 24s. And gosh, I would rather see a gym packed full and I can't use anything because the youth is in there doing something productive than out on
yep,
the street doing something unproductive. So it made me
totally.
so happy.
Yeah,
And no matter what they choose to do, I think the next step is our mental health. And I love that you're starting where this podcast or where you're going with your branding. So for someone who comes to you and they're like, hey, Ryan, I could never have a six pack like you. Like, I just want to be healthy. What do you tell that person?
I tell them they can have whatever they want. I'm a firm believer in that. So they're gonna have. I tell everybody, you have to have a paradigm shift, right? If you think and tell yourself you're never gonna have a six pack, you're never gonna have a six pack. But if you tell yourself, I would love to have a six pack, what do I need to do? What are the steps I need to take? And how long is it gonna take to get there? You know what I mean? Like that's where I kind of tell everybody, like, you got to have the thought of I'm climbing Mount Everest, right? And what I mean by that is, with that, you're there's no end goal, right? Like, I'm not in anything for the light at the end of the tunnel. It's all of my stuff is just getting better at what I'm at, and until I die, right? Like, so I tell everybody, like, don't ever have an end goal. Don't do 90-day challenges, don't do 60-day challenges, don't do 30-day challenges. Let's become better, just better. And so if you want a six pack, let's start now, because if we don't start now, you're never going to start. And let's just make these tiny little steps and know we're never going to stop. We're just going to improve our lives to a point where we might have an eight pack. Like, who knows? But I really hate the let's sign up for a 30, 60-day, 90-day challenge, because it teaches everybody that when it's over, I'm done. That's
Oh,
the mental part
interesting.
of it. Yeah. And so for me, if it's not sustainable for a lifetime, I'm never going to start it. I'm just not going to do it ever. Unless it's like a marathon, right? Like a short term goal. But if it comes to my body and eating and training, if I can't sustain it for a long period of time, I'm not going to do it. And that's what I tell all my clients. I say, look, I will get you to wherever you want to be. If you want to be jacked, if you want to be super healthy, if you want to be skinny, like whatever it is, I can get you there. But I don't want you to have an end goal in sight. I don't want you to think this is going to end. I want you to be the best person you possibly be in 10 years. 5 years, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And that's where life is fulfilled. Life is never fulfilled by trying something out. It's by becoming better, especially healthy. Like, you talk about mental health. For me, the one thing I've learned is I've written, I don't even know how many diets, thousands, right? And so, but if their head's not right, then they don't hit the diet. They don't, they're not in the right spot. They can't, they're going to cheat. They're going to fail. They're going to give up. But if I can get their head right, and how do I get their head right? I help them sleep better. I give them those like few basic little pillars to help them like get their body kind of rebalance, like, or reset. And then I say, okay, now that we got this, the simplest things, like the absolute, if you can do the simple things, let's move on to the hard things. But it's all here, you know. Yeah, I would say it's head and heart because they need to know why, like they need to know why they're doing it in a way. Like, okay, that's where I tell them we're the first thing we're gonna do. There's no end in sight. Like, guys, we got to get that out of your head because we're not doing this just so you can get married and look super sexy on your wedding day for your husband. We're doing this so you can look sexy on your husband even sexier 6 years after, you know?
Yeah.
And and that's the goal. It's the journey. It's the never ending journey of bettering ourselves in all ways. And that doesn't mean muscle, right? Like that doesn't mean like I'm gonna be massively jacked. It means I'm gonna be super happy and healthy and fit, you know, on any level.
So, what I'm hearing you say is to focus on the journey, maybe create a goal to set your sight to keep you like focused short term, but it really changing the way people think about goals is not like, oh, I just got married. Now I let all that hard work go. That was a really common problem. If those who listening who were in bodybuilding, we were in bodybuilding, people would do the show and they'd eat shit. And
Oh yeah.
then they would go bounce back. And but here's the thing: is like there wasn't a lot of coaches who were giving those mental and emotional tools either. And I
Yeah.
think the coaches that got it would give some of the tools, but you had to be careful because you were competitors could be so emotional that it was almost like they relied on their coach to give them that. So I think what's so amazing now is as things are shifting, there's more coaches saying you need to be working on that. Here's some tools, but not to rely on me because when I'm done or when this is done, where are you going to go with this? And I know a good friend, it was so awesome. She's like, I took all that work ethic from competing day after day and I turned all of that discipline into a business. So instead of every day going to the, I mean, she goes to the gym, but instead of being there, 4 hours or whatever it is, she said, I allocated that focus into business. And I believe that by doing bodybuilding or the events she did helped her because business is hard as an entrepreneur. And you put on your profile, you're an entrepreneur at heart. How would you define what an entrepreneur is?
I would say it's hard because an entrepreneur for me is someone that wants to create a better way in whatever industry you're in for the consumer, right? And so
Yeah.
here's a good example. So um, I was just listening to some stuff online, and it said that it was saying that the artist that creates the art for himself creates priceless art. The artist that creates that art for other people creates commercial art. It's nowhere. It will never be priceless ever in life, right? And for me, it's like every business that I've started is to create a better product or experience for the consumer. You know, I and probably to my detriment, I'm not that like, let's go make $10 billion. I don't want that. I don't that business doesn't attract me, right? It's let's create something that when we leave, it's still bettering people. You know, if I die, it's still bettering people. And so the art that I create are my products, you know, and I don't create them for other people. Really, I don't. I create them for myself, or like it's like my little masterpiece. And then if people like it, they like it, and people that don't like they don't. You know, and but I've always found that when I do it with everything I have, they like it. And so the entrepreneur, a real entrepreneur for me, isn't about just making money. It's about creating a better system or a better way or an improvement to those around us. That's what a real entrepreneur is for me. You know, we have a lot of people online that want to say the opposite and say, "Hey, you can get quick online money online in 10 days or whatever." Like that's not an entrepreneur for me. You know, I guess I'm a little traditional, a little old school. But what
I
about
wouldn't
you?
call it old school. I wouldn't even call it old school. I mean, if you think about it, I'm not going to discount being able to have the brains and the navigation to make money quick. But do you have the power to persevere through something very challenging? With my former, we started a gym together. Still in business, thrived. It was one of the first business models in Utah that actually made money. And we learned everything we could about everything everybody did wrong. And nobody starts a gym because they're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
You start it because you are very passionate about what you're doing and you want to help people. And we did. I worked full time. My former worked full time, and then we ran a gym together. And day in, day out, you are thinking, eating, thriving on that business. And if you are not hustling a paycheck or a sale or close, but you have to do it with the right intentions because people can feel that too. And I think that's the health and wellness industry. People who go in to help people do it because they truly want to give back. You're doing your supplements because you want to be innovative in a way that helps people to heal. I mean, the most purest ingredient, you're putting that in your body. And at a micro level, that stacks up just like a habit. And if those ingredients aren't good for you, what are you going to do for your health in the long run? So I think that speaks volumes about your brand and the people listening is why you do what you do and what your brand stands for and why they should work and take your supplements. I think it's amazing. So ending on this, two things. I want to hear what your fitness tips are for anybody listening. You got to give us 3 fitness tips. And then do you have a mantra or something that like when you started out building your brand, you had a moment when you probably wanted to quit, I would imagine,
All the time.
all the
Do you want me to give my
time.
fitness
So
tips first or the quit?
give the fitness tip first.
Okay, the fitness tips. I would say, and this is told by everybody, sleep is everything. Like it's everything. In my opinion, like the deeper, better I sleep, the better I lift the next day. So do not, it took me years and years and years and years to figure out how to sleep so I don't sleep. As that entrepreneurial brain never stops. So utilize sleep, utilize hydration. And then when you go into the gym or your training session, this is intensity is underutilized. For me, I people say you can't out train a diet. I believe that to a point, but I have out trained a diet and seen people out train diets for years. If your intensity levels are high enough because you're in there to make change, I call it forcing progress. That is going to give you the edge on everybody else. Just walk in the gym, look around and see who's on their phone, who's looking at girls or, all that stuff. Be that one person that's in there to make enforced progress, to better yourself.
So intentional focus.
Intentional focus is to me almost more important than anything else. Because the more intensity you put into your workout, and I don't mean it has to be heavyweight, but the more intensity you put into your workout, the more you're going to get out of it. So that would be everything. Those little 3 things will change you in a dramatic way. Obviously, then you got nutrition and supplementation on that. But if you could sleep, hydrate, and have intentional focus in the gym and force progress to come out of there, knowing patting yourself on the back. That's what you need to do every
Yeah.
time, every single time. So
I think I like that too because people don't acknowledge what they do and they tell themselves they're not enough. So by you
yeah,
encouraging them to say, you made it and I'm enough, you're reaffirming. I mean, how many people actually make it to the gym? You know what I mean?
yeah. No, and don't we both have days where we don't want to go, but we show up, right? Like
Oh,
there's many days where I'm like, I don't want to be here, but I go, and
yeah.
I might lift lighter that day, but I'll still go. I'll kick my own butt, you know what I mean? And then I feel come out and I
Yep.
feel accomplished. So don't think that just because someone might be fit or in the industry that they don't also struggle with days. You got it. I heard this a long time ago, but it says don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 25. Like make sure
That's
that you
great. I like
realize where
that.
you're at, and it's okay because you'll be that chapter 25 eventually. So but the quit thing, I could go on this. So I have owned Warrior Fuel and have been the primary. I put everything in it myself. So there was a time we had a bunch of employees before COVID, and then that it kind of how COVID went. So, but I have met with 25 potential partners and investors, and I would say 24 of them have been wanting to get in partner with me on the brand because they wanted to have a connection to girls, right? Like literally. These are all men, and I've turned down all of them because it's always like, hey, when do I meet your female athletes, or when are we gonna do events? And I'm like, wait, what?
Oh,
And
that's different. I've never
it's
heard that.
crazy. No, this is crazy, and it's a side of like business you don't see or hear about. But for me, this brand has been a brand of goodness. We've done so much. Like we're doing a thing with some veterans that are injured veterans going to like a fit camp right now, right? So it's always been about that and troubled youth. And so to take away from that, I'm like, nope, I won't take on a single partner investor that doesn't have really good intentions. because I could sell the brand and be okay. Like we'd be okay. But I know the potential. We're gonna have a Warriorfield training center one day that does stuff with troubled youth and our pro athletes, like we're all that stuff. But there's probably a time a month where I'm like, this sucks. Like, I hand scoop a lot of products. I mix a lot of products. I'm covered in flavor. I shower and have like kiwi and strawberry and tiger's blood coming down my face, and you could cover yourself in a suit and you'll still get it all in your eyes, and it's just how manufacturing is. Those powders are so fine. I have I bet I have put together personally 25,000 bottles minimum, myself with my own hands. And so it's one of those things where if I didn't absolutely love it, regardless of the value of the brand, I would never keep doing it. Like, never. But I feel like we can create a superior impact than most brands can that are just about sexy chicks and, you know what I mean? Like, in all that. And really have a long lasting impact. And that's why I do it. It's I know what's out there and what will make happen. But I bet there's 20, 30 times a year where I'm like, dude, I would quit if I didn't know what this could be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're following the heart of
Yeah.
what you don't really know could happen, but you know it's there because you intuitively feel that it's coming, which as long as you've been in the supplement industry, I've watched a lot of brands come and go. I'm sure you could name some of them. You have to be willing
Oh,
to
yeah.
put in the work and persevere through it to really blow something up that you love.
Yep. And that goes, I've had brands come to me with they've raised $14 million from a family member or whatever, and they're bankrupt 12 months later. And you're just like, what? But they weren't in it for the right reasons, right? You cannot start
Yeah.
a brand. You need to be in the brand for the long game. Like, a brand doesn't happen overnight. A brand's created over 5, 10,
Your
15 years.
overnight 7 year
Yeah,
success.
no, it's true. Like a
Yeah.
real brand, right? You can create a product and dump it, but a real brand takes years and years and years and years to create the trust and the reliability of what it's doing. But I would say intention is everything in long game. If you want to be a real entrepreneur, have patience for the long game.
I love that. So, where do you want to see Warrior Fuel in 5 years?
5 years, I want to open up a
I mean, it's
Warfield.
longer than
Yeah,
that, I
no,
know,
you're good.
but
You're good. I want to open up a Warfield training center where I connect troubled youth and parents that are struggling, right? Like, and what I mean by that, I feel like there's so many people that have given up. I'm almost getting emotional, but there's so many people that are like, I quit on life. And what they see, their kids see that, and I want to change that. And so connect my athletes, because we have NFL players, Major League Baseball players, NBA. I mean, we have UFC fighters and pro boxers, and that I want to take them to our training center and have a few days a week where it's like, come and learn from the guys you idolize, right? That on how just gain motivation, and I want to connect like those guys in troubled youth in a big way. That's
sounds
five
like
years.
from your personal experiences combined with what you see being missed with our youth, you really hope that this brand can provide that.
Our youth are everything. I truly believe that they are. And if we're not doing our job as leaders and parents and to teach them the right ways of life, they'll never know. You know.
No, you don't. And if you can provide life skills and tools, like you said, you're going to be hard to kill. So, how can
Absolutely.
people find you if they want to work with you, and then where to find all of your resources?
Instagram is probably the best thing. I've been on all the platforms. I get it's just too much. I have so much going on. Instagram is probably the best place to find me. We have 3 pages because we do a lot in the outdoor hunting world, a lot in the fitness world and fighting world, and then my own page. So jumping
I
back
love
on
it.
LinkedIn, I'm soon, but it's just too much.
One more
So
thing to manage, but you guys check them out. Warrior Fuel is in most stores. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it online. I'll put the links here for you to try it. But there you go. There's the brand and there's the man.
thank you.
You're so
Appreciate
welcome.
you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, please share it and help us keep the conversation going. We can't grow without you. So, thank you in advance for your support of Power of Perseverance.